Hey guys, today we're going to replace the ignition coil on this lawnmower. It is a Troy Bilt TB110 model. It has a Briggs Stratton engine. Now, diagnosing an ignition coil is a little bit outside of the scope of this video. I'm just going to focus on how to replace it. Now on these models, it's extremely easy. You just take off the plastic cover and you're good to go. On other models, you're going to have to take them apart a little bit more to get at the ignition coil, but this one's really easily accessible. So other mowers are a little bit more complicated to take apart. Like on this one, you have to not remove the fuel tank, but unbolt it and tip it back. Then you have to take this top off and then this metal cover, and then the ignition coil is under all of that. But on this Troy Bilt, it's actually a lot easier to get to. To do this job, all you need is an 8mm socket to take the top off, a 1/4-inch socket to take the ignition coil off, and some kind of piece of cardboard, thin cardboard. So I'm using just some junk mail I got. Something like a business card will work fine, or local pizza menu. You want a very small gap between the ignition coil and the flywheel, but they can't touch. All right, the first step is to take these 3 bolts off the top so that the plastic top can pop right off. Just set that aside. All right, so this is the ignition coil right here. So you just undo that bolt and that bolt. The wire for the spark plug is part of it, so you have to pull the spark plug wire off. So now I'm going to undo these 2 bolts. And before you can remove it, there's one more electrical connector right there. That's for the ground wire. So when you let go of the bar to shut off the lawnmower, the spark goes through here instead of going to the spark plug, and that's how the engine stops. If you don't reconnect this when you put the new coil in, you won't be able to turn the lawnmower off. It will just keep running and running. All right, now it just lifts right out. All right, here's the old one and here's the new one. The new one looks a lot nicer, but that doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't really matter if they get a little bit of surface rust on them. But internally, if there's shorts in the copper in there, that could be causing issues with it generating spark. All right, let's throw the new one on. So you can see there's a little plug sticking out of the side. So you want to make sure that's on the same side as the electrical connector for the shutdown. You could install this upside down and it would probably still work. You just wouldn't be able to plug that in. So I'm going to fish it in there and loosely bolt it in place. You don't want to tighten it yet, and I'll show you why in a minute. Now the holes in the coil are elongated, and that's so you can adjust the coil front and back because you want to get the spacing just right. So I'm going to turn the flywheel so that the magnets are right there. So I'm going to pull the coil back, and it's stuck to the magnet, so it's not easy. There we go. I'm going to feed the junk mail between the ignition coil and the flywheel. Let it go. So now the magnets are pulling this up against the flywheel, but the junk mail in between is keeping just a little bit of the space there. So now I'm going to tighten the bolts down real good. Now gently pull the junk mail out. There we go. So usually it pulls right out, but this was really tight, so I had to spin the flywheel a little bit. All right, now I'm just gonna plug that grounding wire in. So the new coil is shaped a little bit differently, so it's kind of a tight squeeze to get the grounding wire to plug into it, but if you work at it, you can get it in there. I'm gonna feed the spark plug wire underneath the choke line. Plug that in. There we go. Now we just got to put the cover back on. Sometimes you have to pull the cord a little bit to get the plastic cover to seat properly. All right, that's all there is to it. So let's take this outside and test it out. All right, there you go. It's pretty easy to do ignition coils on lawnmowers. I don't know if you actually need to do it or not, and it turns out I did not. It didn't actually affect the way this machine ran. But if you do need to do ignition coil, it's very easy to do it yourself. All right, that's all for now. I'll see you guys later.